Meshu, and he's going to talk about nonlinear stochastic modeling, critical phenomena, and entropy.
Outside, let me thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. And I must also confess that I'm not a person of data assimilation, and only after coming here, I'm exposed to this area. So what I plan to do is some general role of nonlinearity and stochasticity. As an illustration, I will take the examples of social modeling, which I have been engaged as an illustrative example. Then we shall discuss some new type of entropy, which is called Thales entropy, how we get it from nonlinear stochastic dynamics with multiplicative the Thales entropy, and if time permits, I will discuss some of the joint work with stochastic estimation, like as a control problem estimation of parameters from LCEs in a manner. Some how Thales entropy we have applied to variety of communication networks. Okay, if we look at this nonlinear stochastic modeling, critical phenomena, and entropy. Okay, real systems are essentially physical, engineering, biological, and social are nonlinear and stochastic. All of us know that system behavior, whenever we apply a linear framework, there is a unique equilibrium, and the linear superposition principle applies. And so at one time, say 1960-70, people were interested in this type of dynamics, linear systems, so there was a unique equilibrium. But with the development of this nonlinearity and appreciation, so these systems are capable of capturing both qualitative and quantitative aspects of complex systems. And as a result of new development which took place around 70s, a lot of development like synergetics, Hawkins, and dissipative structures, Prigogine, catastrophe theory, dynamical system, bifurcation, chaos, advance in nonlinear, stochastic modeling, and complexity theory. So within the framework of these developments, we are able to capture both qualitative and quantitative aspects of systems. Stochastic modeling, if you look, there are two types of stochasticities. One is intrinsic stochasticity, one is environmental stochasticity. There is a third type of stochasticity, which I will also discuss, coming as a role of initial random conditions. So if you look at the intrinsic stochasticity, this all typical physics problems, they arises due to discreteness of the variables of the system, and the general description of this is in terms of master equation. So if you know the transition probability density, so one can construct a Chapman-Kolmogorov equation. So in terms of this, one obtains like Kramer-Moyles expansion, then Fokker-Planck equation. So basically this Fokker-Planck equation is a PD, parabolic PD, which gives us the transition probability density function. Similarly, we can have a discrete Markov process, same type of formalism will work. So if you look at the intrinsic stochasticity, if there is a size of the system is n or omega, then the relative fluctuations are of the order of n minus half, where n is the size of the system, and this is a consequence of central limit theorem that for all large systems, when so long as we are far from critical point, the bifurcation point of the system, if system doesn't have any bifurcation point, then all these relative fluctuations are of the order of n minus half. And as we are reaching the critical point, the phase transition point, critical point is the phase transition point, then there is a breakdown of central limit theorem, because at that point, lot of substructures becomes highly correlated, and you find that the relative fluctuation no longer scale as n minus half. So, but so long as you are far from critical point, and if you are taking into account the intrinsic stochasticity, then for a large system, one can adopt a deterministic approach, because the relative fluctuation for large system goes to 0, and so deterministic formalism works very well. And these lot of results are there. So if there is a birth and death process in intrinsic stochasticity framework, then the whole process you can show that it converges to an Ornstein non-stationary Ornstein-Uhlenbeck process, and this result was Thomas Kurtz. They also proved some results that this is a consequence of large scale when as n tends to infinity. And in physics, Van Kempen, as early as 1962, he argued that whenever the systems are far from critical point, then xt can be scaled as this is of order n, that is a deterministic part. Superimposed on that, there is a fluctuations n of zt. And this works so long as you are far from critical point, but at the critical point, the scaling is different. It becomes n to the power nu. So it is a new parameter which becomes important, how to decide about the fluctuation. Okay, then there is another type of stochasticity, that is environmental stochasticity. Environmental stochasticity, that given a system which is embedded in a large, which is embedded in the environment, which is endowed with a large number of degrees of freedom fluctuating randomly. This makes the parameters of the process stochastic. For example, in ecological systems, parameters involved are subject to random variations. For example, temperature, humidity, age composition. So one can list a number of factors, atmospheric sciences, number of factors which are stochastic themselves. So for a realistic modeling, one must incorporate both intrinsic stochasticity and environmental stochasticity. So typically the mathematical formulation of a system which contains environmental stochasticity is dx by dt is some sort of deterministic part, plus there is a term which is gamma t, which represents the environment. So as a result of random fluctuations in gamma t, these fluctuations are normally assumed to be white noise. They can also be treated as colored noise depending on the time scale. Because if the macroscopic time scale is much larger than the time scale of fluctuation, then one can treat the fluctuations as delta correlated as a white noise. And if the time scale is of the same comparable to the macroscopic time scale, then one can treat it as a colored noise. So this gamma t itself is represented by, say for example, by a Ornstein-Uhlenbeck process. Then one can enlarge it and one can find that in the enlarged space, it becomes again a Markovian process, which is driven by white noise. So as a result of random variation, this gamma t becomes gamma bar t plus gamma rt, which is a stochastic process, so which is assumed to be a white noise. So generally you get an equation SD with multiplicative noise, axt plus gamma rt bxt. So again there are two types of interpretations, Statonovich and Ito. So Ito integrals and Statonovich. So, but again there was a 70s, people used to work with, one group is working with Statonovich, other is with Ito calculus. We also had the same problem in nuclear engineering. Whatever other person says, we say that is wrong, and the fellow says whatever we did. So in nuclear science and engineering, I think 70s, this was a debate which was Statonovich versus Ito. But in physical system, Wong, there was a paper that Statonovich gives a better prescription for physical processes because you assume it to be white, and typically if you take a white noise process which requires infinite amount of energy, so what they say, they truncate it and they assume it to be a sort of a colored noise, so, and then they find not colored, so typically they think that it is a Statonovich gives a better prescription. So in physics literature, Statonovich is very popular, but whereas in mathematics, finance and stochastic process, stochastic integrals with Ito, a lot of interesting mathematical properties which people are they normally use with this type of prescription. But one can always go from one prescription to other. So in this case, again, you have a Fokker-Planck equation. One can reduce this multiplicative noise as a Fokker-Planck equation. So we can have different type of boundary condition, reflective barriers, absorbing barriers. And interestingly, for a one-dimensional stochastic process, the classification where there is a reflecting, partially reflecting, absorbing, that has been done very well by Feller. But for a two-dimensional and higher dimensional processes, that problem, how to classification of boundaries, that is a difficult problem. Okay, now I will discuss some aspects of something which has interested me, some social dynamics, very simple model of information diffusion in social groups. But before that, I also mentioned that at one time when people were doing some social modeling, there was a lot of criticism. Because social modeling, people say there is a human free will, and that's why you can't say that the individuals are just governed by some type of dynamics, so there should be not a unique equilibrium, it should be multiple equilibria, and if there's a multiple equilibria. So people thought that 70s, many persons started getting into social dynamics modeling, many physicists I found. And the reason was that this nonlinearity can give you multiple equilibria, and those multiple equilibria became interesting, and so people took to this type of modeling. And there's a very famous statement by Max Planck. He said, somebody asked Max Planck what is the difference between physical sciences and social sciences. Max Planck answered it. He said, you take a particle which is acted upon by two forces. According to parallelogram of forces, particle always moves along the diagonal. That is physics. Now you took a hungry dog, put some food here and some food here. Dog never runs along the diagonal. So that was the basic issue which he taught out beautifully in this context. So what I discussed, some idea of innovation diffusion, that given a particular new idea, how does it diffuse in societal, in a social group. And then in this context, I will discuss role of intrinsic stochasticity, role of environmental stochasticity, role of noise through parameters as random variables. And this, how this simple nonlinear model can give a variety of different type of phenomena, and at the same time, what is the role of the criticality in these models, how the scaling takes place when we are in the vicinity of critical points. So innovation is an idea, practice, or object that is perceived as new by an individual. The newness of an innovation may be expressed in terms of knowledge, persuasion, or decision to adopt. So innovation has been this whole diffusion there. In social sciences, they take it as temporal growth dynamics. If there is an idea, how does it propagate across the population? So it is a temporal growth. And Rogers, he is a professor of communication at Stanford University. He has listed almost 23 disciplines in social sciences where this diffusion takes place. Diffusion of innovation is, say, in economics, new green revolution, in geography, in marketing. So marketing literature is full of this type of phenomena. Given a new product, they are interested, how does it diffuse? So typically what they find that there is a S-shaped curve initially whenever there is a product at time. So initially, and then this is a typical pattern that initially it grows very fast, somewhere there is a critical point, and after that it slows down. So there is a point of inflection. This is a typical curve which they find in all innovation diffusion, that is a phenomenon. Whereas they have also recently found out that if you look at diffusion in the ICT communication technologies, they find there is a point of some critical mass. Unless you reach that critical mass, innovation will not diffuse. So there is a notion of critical mass which they have, particularly interactive communication technology. Okay, this is a model of General Bartholomew. He was at London Business School. He wrote that famous book on stochastic models for social processes. So in this case, this was Journal of Mathematical Sociology. So N is the total size of homogeneously mixing population. Alpha is the transmission intensity of the source, that is the mass media. Beta is the propagation intensity through interpersonal contact. Mu inverse is the duration of time for which a spreader remains active. So there are some persons who are converted from one category to another category as a result of external mass source and as a result of interpersonal contact, and there is a loss of interest. So it is similar to what we have, the models of epidemic modeling, where you have susceptibles and infective, and then there is a persons who recover from that. But here they say once they join the rank of ignorance once again. So it is a simple nonlinear dynamics, but this dynamics also is very illustrative. And this was a famous paper by Frank Bass, which was published way back in 1969 in Management Science. And till date, this is the most cited paper that any innovation, whenever they bring out any innovation in the market, so they find out how the whole innovation is diffusing, and then what is the optimal time for introduction of a new product, say at 286, 386, 486. So what is the optimal timing as the optimal control problem? They solve it, and what is the optimal time so that they can have the maximum advantage by diffusing it. So what Frank Bass says, in a new product diffusion, there is alpha and beta, and n minus n is the number of persons that have not yet adopted. So this is a typical dynamics, and so this is a famous model, Frank Bass model. But interestingly, if you have, we say that diffusion is taking place only through mass media and there is a loss of interest, then we witness a phenomenon which is a threshold phenomena. So omega is alpha by beta, the ratio of the external source to the to the interactive parameter. D is the mean number of contacts, tau is the rescaling time, phi tau equal to this. So what we find that d phi by d tau equal to this. So it means the system has two solutions. For d less than 1, this solution is stable, this is stable, and this is also stable when d is less than 1. So it means the diffusion will not take place unless we reach the critical point d equal to 1. Only after that the system goes into zero. And this is typically manifestation of the phase transition. When there is a d equal to 1 is the critical point of the system. When you reach the critical point, the information will diffuse. So if you look the corresponding analog of the stochastic version as a stochastic process, so one can write down the transition probability matrix, the transition probability, which is given as this, pure button dash. Even in such a simple nonlinear dynamics, no analytical solution is possible. The reason I shall discuss, because you can always write down this equation. And as we are increasing the parameter d, then we find that the distribution changes from geometric distribution to a quasi-Poissonian distribution, and at the critical point d equal to dc, both n bar and sigma n both are of the same order, and that is typical manifestation when the system is going for a critical phase transition. Similarly, if you look at the entropy, what is the order disorder transition, then entropy, mean entropy per spreader, if you look, then that entropy is equal to order 1 below the threshold. And as we are reaching the critical point d equal to 1, we find that this threshold becomes is of the order of n minus half log n, and when this d is greater than 1, then it is still n minus 1, this is n minus half, this is of order 1. So below a threshold, system is in a state of relative order, and as you move out of this, move across this fluctuation point, the system moves from relative disorder to relative order. I think, I'm sorry, this should be order. And the point is that if you have a stochastic dynamics, that is a typically Chapman-Kolmogorov equation, if you write down the equation for the first moment, you get the second moment. If you write the equation for second moment, you get third moment. So you get infinite hierarchy of moment equation. How to truncate this infinite hierarchy of moment equation? This is typically of all nonlinear stochastic systems. In turbulence also, given a dynamical system, you get, so Kretschmann and all those persons, some equivalent discard method. But that is only the basis that ultimately, if you find that the system has a Gaussian structure, then you can have a cumulative discard, otherwise this would not be a valid one. So that is a big problem, how to solve nonlinear stochastic system. Similarly, one can also take a class of diffusion where lambda n and mu n are both of the quadratic nonlinearity. Then we say NT equal to, suppose we break it, and that is a evolution, mean evolution, and this is a fluctuation. And we find that the critical point b equal to b dash, then you find that at critical point n square is of order this and n bar is this. So both n bar and sigma, if you take the square root, are of the same order, omega half. So at the critical point, the fluctuations are very, very significant, and that defines the critical region like this. And if you carry out the further analysis, then what we find, if we carry out that expansion, that there is a factor which is sitting over here, omega minus half. And what omega minus half says that when the system is preparing for the phase transition, there is a new phenomenon which is called critical slowing down. So there is a new time scale which comes into operation as a critical point, and this is a omega minus half when you observe in time. So there is a new time scale, that is a critical slowing down, and that is called order parameter, or rho n upon omega. If you look at the probability structure at the critical point, this turns out to be far from Gaussian. And at this point, if we define that sort of eta as a parameter from deviation from the critical point, we find that both rho, average rho and rho square, this in terms of parabolic cylinder function, we find that d rho by d eta, the rate of change of order parameter with eta, is proportional to variance. So it means the rate of growth of order parameter is directly proportional to the variance, and which elucidates the role of played by fluctuation. The fluctuations become very important, and this defines a broader class of systems displaying identical behavior in critical region. Next, if we take multiple adoption levels, in the sense that the parameter beta Beta itself becomes a function of state, and this is Mahajan, Isingwood, Mahajan, Muller have suggested the time-varying nature of interaction parameter itself becomes state dependent, and then one will have, instead of delta equal to 1, this becomes delta equal to 2 and some different values. So one can associate a stochastic differential equation. These are Wiener process. Then if we do it for large n equal to n phi t and nu t, then what is the scaling parameter? For comparing orders of n, we find something, this equation, and if we do it analysis, there is a potential function which can characterize this dynamical system. This becomes a quartic potential function, which you can canonical transformation, one can reduce it to a cusp catastrophe. So given this cusp catastrophe, in the steady state you find the adoption level is, this is unique adoption level, but as we are on the lower branch, the system is on the lower branch, suddenly at this critical point system jumps from one level to another, you go to the upper branch, and when you retrieve it, the system makes a transition here, and that is called hysteresis effect in the memory. But what happens to the probability structure? We find the Fokker-Planck equation has a structure which is x cube p, that is a cubic nonlinearity, and this sum in physics literature they call it nonlinear Fokker-Planck, but actually this term now they are using also in multiplicative noise. So because of this cubic nonlinearity, system will have a quartic potential at a critical point, and if we want that both the drift and they are of the same order, that determines mu equal to 3 by 4. So this parameter, the scaling at the critical point is very different from that of n nu equal to half. That is, when system is reaching the critical point, the scaling parameter is different. So similarly, we can have critical slowing down, that is what we have discussed. The interesting thing is that this becomes a bimodal probability distribution. Because all probability structures, if you look at all PDFs which are unimodal, they are all underlying a stochastic differential equation which is linear in drift. But because of this non-linearity, that this Fokker-Planck equation itself becomes a drift, becomes a function, a nonlinear function, and this system depicts a distribution which is bimodal distribution. As you change the parameter, they become this and then. So there is a Brian Arthur at again Stanford University. He says there are multiple equilibria and a central authority favors a particular one. It can of course attempt to tilt the market towards this outcome. Timing is very crucial. There are only narrow windows in which policy is effective. So a small range of beta can change the qualitative change of parameter from beta to this. So it is a multiple, and similarly higher order nonlinearity will give multiple PDFs. Okay, so far we have discussed this role of intrinsic stochasticity. The entire dynamics only took place as a birth and death process, master equation. That was the intrinsic stochasticity. Now if we take into account the stochasticity which is now if we take beta, suppose what is the role of this environmental noise. Now suppose we say the beta parameter. Beta is an interpersonal context which depends on environmental factor, taste, mood, and all those things one can argue. So beta itself becomes a stochastic. Then if expected gamma t, the rate of fluctuation, suppose we say it's not rate. The fluctuation we say expected value is 0, and this is delta correlated process. Then we find a stochastic differential equation which is of this type, whose stationary probability density function is given in terms of, this is a Bessel function. And what we find that sigma square, the parameter, the intensity of the noise of the parameter beta, if this is less than critical point value sigma square c, then the system is unimodal. As you change the parameter this, suddenly you find, and this is called noise induced by stability in the system, that noise can also play a significant role. Similarly, so long as sigma square is less than sigma c square, the system has this unimodal. As you are changing the sigma, so when it becomes larger than this, you find suddenly system gets into bimodal distribution. So, pardon? Okay. So then this is because this can give you steady states which are here, and there are two states in which the system can be trapped. There is another interesting thing, some random differential equation. I have discussed the role of multiplication this. intrinsic noise, multiplicative noise, and even sometimes the random. If there is an initial parameter random, this parameter is random, like particularly this particular parametric noise. Suppose R is the growth rate. To just illustrate the points of dx by dt equal to Rx. Simple linear dynamics, if R is a random variable, where R bar plus epsilon, then epsilon is normally distributed, and one finds that expected xt goes, the fluctuations in R can lead to exponential, which is growing at a very fast rate. And if you look at the dx by dt, then the rate, if you look at R was a random variable. As a result of this, the system had a constant time, constant rate, now it becomes a time dependent. And similarly, if you look at the fluctuations, and the second moment, you find the second moment also increasing with time, and the relative fluctuations with passage of time also increases much larger. So such type of uncertainties in parameters can be disastrous, and one can also reduce them to. So this is recently we studied this again in innovation diffusion. We find a new phenomenon which is called transient bimodality, in particularly when the parameters of the process themselves are random variables. So like taste, preference, demographic, environmental factor, etc. very randomly. So in this case, it is same, it is a pure deterministic equation where there is no noise, white noise, nothing of that type. Alpha and beta are random variables, and as a result of this random variation, you find that the solution process, if you look, then this process, it gives a solution like this. And finally, if we find the probability density function turns out to be of this form. We can obtain, and this gives a phenomenon which is transient bimodality. As the system is evolving over time, initially a time period, you find the system is a unimodal, and as time increases further, then you find the system has different points. System gets a bimodal, one and here, and then eventually there is only one. So during the evolution process also, the randomness in the parameters can depict a phenomenon which is called transient bimodality, and such type of things they are observing, particularly in explosive chemical kinetics. Suddenly they find these parameters can. Okay, now this multiplicative and non-extensive statistical mechanics. Recently, this Salis introduced a new entropy function that is called Salis entropy. So all statistical physics which we know is based on Boltzmann-Gibbs statistical mechanics. But the problem is, the basic assumption of this is that the process is ergodic, the entire phase space is covered by the system, and system can find itself equally living in all parts of the phase space. But then it was argued by Salis that there are a number of subsystems, but particularly in turbulence, in cosmology, in self-gravitating system, where some portion of the phase space is occupied and not the entire phase space. So you find that this Boltzmann statistical mechanics doesn't work, and we introduce a new entropy which is called this type of entropy, where Q is the entropy index. So there's a large, and now the question is, what are the different mechanisms which can generate this type of thing? So one of the Christian Beck argued there should be minus sign. You take a Langevin equation, simple Langevin equation. You start the Langevin equation and you argue that this parameter beta is a gamma variate like a chi-square distributed. If beta parameter based on gamma by sigma square is then this system, then the stochastic differential equation will yield a conditional probability average over beta. You find there is a probability density function which becomes a power law. So the power law mechanism one can generate on account of a multiplicative, very simple noise, very simple Langevin equation which is a linear SDE. There is a white noise, there is some minus gamma u, and if that parameter sigma itself is a random variable, then you find it becomes a power law distribution, and which they find, Salis finds a number of turbulence area, they find that this type of mechanism is there. Similarly, this was a long back. When I was doing PhD, it was Professor Rangarajan who suggested me this problem, S.K. Rangarajan here in IPC. He said, okay, Langevin equation, if you look at beta, beta is a parameter which is dissipative constant. And beta itself is a function, suppose you put the entire thing in a thermal bath, and the temperature of the thermal bath is changing with time, then this beta will become a stochastic, so beta plus alpha t is stochastic, is the same Langevin equation with multiplicative noise. If you carry out this Fokker-Planck equation, then you find, and again Wong in 1964 paper he had given a number of solutions of Fokker-Planck equation, complete time dependent description, and where it turned out to be this. And interestingly, for last time you get a power law, and for alpha equal to half you get a Cauchy density function. So a system, you start with a system Langevin equation, perturb the parameter beta as a multiplicative noise, and then you find the system can depict this type of power law behavior. Similarly, we can do the same type of thing in nuclear reactor kinetics. And this was the work again of Salis. Salis says you start with this any stochastic noise with additive noise, multiplicative noise, and there is a Fokker-Planck equation formulation. Then you find that if whenever deterministic drift is proportional to noise induced, you get a power law. So that is a mechanism, perhaps multiplicative noise and Salis entropy, which he argues also from different perspectives can lead to this. So then Boldland, she argues that in all non-extensive statistical mechanics, the Fokker-Planck equation should be a nonlinear Fokker-Planck equation, F nu, this is the drift and this is the, and the corresponding stochastic differential equation you write will also involve fxt, which is like this. So it is a Langevin equation driven by white noise, and which can give you a solution which is of power law, where Vx is the potential function. So this, but whatever solution you get is same thing as maximization of Salis entropy subject to the moment constraint. First and second moment you write down, you also get this. So Salis entropy maximization and multiplicative noise, so there are two ways in which you are entering the system, and maybe because I'm just trying to wind up. Yeah. So that is interesting thing is also in 1895, Pearson suggested that all unimodal distributions can be captured by a differential equation of this type, dfx by dx, x plus b this. So then he argued that there are four parameters b, a naught this. By method of moments you can estimate all these parameters. He introduced a parameter kappa, and in terms of kappa you find there are 12 distributions PDF, and these type of distributions you can also look at. If you say Wong, this is the Fokker-Planck equation, if you say in the equilibrium, you get the Pearson type of distribution dwx by this, that's a Pearson. So Pearson family serves a natural role in bringing the gap between first order statistical description characterized by Wx. And interestingly, recently I just, for this, the number of Foreman and Sorensen, they also find that this type of SDE, if you put, you can generate all class of Pearson distributions. So this connection between Fokker-Planck, Pearson, then Salis entropy, multiplicative noise, that is something very intriguing. And we are finding that recently Salis was here in Pala. He spent, and he has a very interesting book by Murray Gell-Mann and Salis. So they have written a book on non-extensive statistical mechanics, and they are arguing that there are large number of non-extensive systems where systems get trapped into part of the phase space. And that leads to some sort of power law behavior. And if that is a power law which we exploited, which we have used extensively for communication networks, particularly when the systems are depicting, say, internet traffic, when the systems are driven by internet traffic using maximum Salis entropy, you find a beautiful description which gives a power law. Thank you very much.